We have an opportunity to tend this garden of light to become more coherently expressive of values which nourish life.
Would the universe have a loss if human beings failed and, the planet died? So does it matter that we succeed or fail?
Yeah, well, it matters to me, and I may be delusional, but but it matters to me whether or not the whole thing works. In other words, I think that we're part of a body of life, and I don't even think, we can differentiate between biology and non-biology, but I don't even think we can and have sufficiently as human beings defined what life is and what life is not. Christoph Koch, who runs the Allen Institute that's working on mapping the human brain connectome, once made this offhanded statement. It sounded offhanded to me about we don't know whether life is sort of an intrinsic property of the entire cosmos. And I went like, he's got a point there. We just sort of accept that life is biology, but we don't even know. So ultimately, I don't even know if we're capable of ending ourselves in the real big picture. If a droplet of water bursts out of the ocean, is it separate? Yeah. Is it still part of the ocean in some sense? Yeah. I think every piece of reality is connected to every other piece in some way. So I don't even know if our speculation about whether or not that matters.
The physics of it would imply, I'm not saying it's true, but it would imply that biology is a necessity in the sense of how the universe works, because no one's ever said to me that if life doesn't exist, shouldn't exist, because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with you.
It's whether it's logical or not. Is life logical? And the only conclusion I can come to is, well, yes, it is. So what's it doing that's logical?
That's a good question. Well, the one thing that I think is, if I were to prioritize the things that I think we need to learn from the message that's conveyed through the cosmos and through biology first, I would say that we need to recognize that biology is not retributive. It doesn't look at it through a lens of crime and punishment. It looks through a lens of healing and nourishment for wounds and malnourishment. When you're hungry, you seek to eat. When you're wounded, your body seeks to repair itself. It doesn't really judge and punish itself. It just tries to repair itself. And I think ultimately a more difficult position to hold socially, but a better position in the big picture, in the long run, in the whole, with the whole community of life involved, is that we really need to find, first of all, the low-hanging fruit. We know there's inner city kids that are in dire straits and are cultivated in atmospheres where the communication behaviorally is that they don't matter, and or there are whole groups of people that socially speaking in the big context of community are marginalized and all of that sort of stuff. And I think that those are the low-hanging fruit. We can start to go after that. Those are the social wounds and healing that we can see and begin to practice this alignment, this harmony with the message coming through biology, at least from my perspective. So maybe that's a little bit too Pollyanna, but
I don't think it's Pollyanna. I think it's I mean, for me, it's just the structure of how things work. We know that little bugs don't have opinions, they just do what they do. But yet we're made from the same little bugs. The system's in place. It's whether we recognize the system in play. If we don't recognize the system, then if we ignore it, then it's to our own peril. It's like saying, well, the lion doesn't eat the gazelle. It's like, well, yeah, it does. We can watch it every day on like any nature program. It has no morals, but we imply morals to it, right? But it's whether we recognize the system.
It is ethical to eat the gazelle.
I think people attribute human emotions and empathy and all this other things to how life works. I think that's very misguided. I think if I was an evolved alien race, I would be shocked at the human race that they don't recognize the fundamental principles of reality. I mean, we tout general relativity and all these fundamental physics, but yet we can't understand the basics. It seems like we ignore them to benefit ignorance more than anything else. If we employed that system, then how humans treat each other would be totally different than the way we are now. We pander to our emotions. We don't employ logic in that respect.
Like I said, I think that we have an opportunity to tend this garden of light to become more coherently expressive of values which nourish life. For instance, the very fact that the trees breathe out CO2 and we're basically their dung beetles, and we breathe out the CO2 and the trees breathe out the oxygen, and we're basically their dung beetles, sort of processing their thing. They give us the carbohydrates and lipids and whatnot we need, directly or indirectly, and we give them part of the nitrate cycle and so forth, mineral, and that they need. That we are organs in the same body in that respect. That I don't think we can differentiate ourselves from other in a local biological sense, but in the big sense too, I don't think we can differentiate ourselves from the cosmos itself, that we are inextricably a member of this entire body thing that we can see, this 13.8 billion years in space-time distance. Yeah. So all that to say, I think that if there is something to be said for that, there is certainly an opportunity that is built on our cultivation of this garden of life that we live in, that we can make a better place, and we have a certain amount of contribution. We are voices in a very large choir, and sometimes we use those voices to just sing disharmoniously, and sometimes we work together and sing harmoniously, and our experience of life is predicated on whether or not we listen and align ourselves with what it is that will make us to a better state of being.